Hey folks, Alan Saunders, Brendan Howe here for Steelers Now at UPMC Rooney Sports Complex. The second day of Pittsburgh, a much calmer day of Pittsburgh Steelers mandatory minicamp. Well, just yesterday was an unreal experience like anything I've ever seen here. Today was mostly a normal minicamp practice. But of course, second practice for Aaron Rodgers, for TK Metcalf. Pretty much all the same cast of characters here today as yesterday. Again, still no TJ Watt, but I feel like after we got the introductions out of the way yesterday, able to start to learn a little bit more about the football team here as we continue through the week. What do you feel like you learned today?
I always seem to find my way to be looking at the receivers. Talked to Zach Gazzoni before practice about the group that he has behind DK Metcalf. Obviously, DK talked today. It seems like it's forever ago at this point. Honestly, his day's been so long. But he talked about the receivers behind him, and Calvin Austin, and Roman, Brandon Johnson, and what they kind of bring to the table. He was really complimentary about Calvin, saying that he's overlooked both figuratively and literally, was the quote, which you kind of expect there with him being a shorter guy. But he says not to count him out as a wide receiver too. And then Brandon Johnson is a guy that's also overlooked, but he said that he pounded the table for him to come here after coaching him in Denver. So that group of guys we talked about, Roman Wilson here before, and then the big thing from today is Darnell Washington there at the end of practice.
I had a big day, man.
Here. So there's some passing or pass catching options there that are kind of being overlooked at this point by wondering who else could be brought in.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to Alfredo Roberts today while you were talking to Bazzani, and I basically said, you lose Donald Parham, are you looking for a tight end? He kind of said, well, yeah, I mean, we need bodies. We had 4 tight ends on the field at one point last year, and he's only got 4 in the room right now. But I think he expressed confidence that both Darnell Washington and Connor Hayward can step up into bigger receiving roles if they need to. He said Darnell has been a totally different guy this season in terms of his fluidity and his motion and looking like a guy who can be an athlete and not just a big pass catcher. And I think that showed up today, man. He had a great play at the end of was a 2-minute drill at the end of practice today. You talked to Darnell. What did he have to say?
He said that he expects, he said this a few weeks ago too, that he expects a larger role in the passing game. Today he kind of talked about how the offense fits him a little bit better. Someone asked him, where are you as a receiver now compared to when he first started? And he laughed at the question at first because that kind of explains his confidence where he thinks he is as a receiver at this point. You know the highlight of him, I think it was against Oregon. I could be mistaken, of him catching the ball, hurdling a guy. Whenever they draft him, that's what I expect out of him. He hasn't really shown that yet, but from the sounds of it and from his confidence, it seems that it's headed in that direction.
Yeah, I thought the offense looked better today. I thought a good day for Scotty Miller. I talked to him. He had a nice catch down the sideline. I thought Calvin Austin has continued to look awesome all OTAs. In general, though, I thought it was a fairly strong day from the offense. We also talked to DK Metcalf for the first time this morning, and he, I think I've been really interested to see how he's going to look in this offense. And man, he's just so big out there. It's hard to look at the formation and tell, is that 2 tight end? No, that's just Darnell Washington and DK Metcalf. It could be 2 tackles out there. They're enormous guys. So I think it's really fun to think about the possibilities. Of course, Arthur Smith talking this morning as well. I think another interesting question about this team, bring in Metcalf, you bring in Aaron Rodgers. Are they still going to be this extremely run-heavy team? Steelers, I think, in the top 6 in rushing attempts last year. Will they still be that skewed towards the run, or are they going to try to find ways to throw the ball more? And Arthur Smith had a great quote. He said, I didn't get these guys to run the wishbone, but do you feel like he's going to fall? I mean, this is a guy who's run the ball everywhere he's gone. Do you feel like he's going to follow through with that?
Well, he had Derrick Henry, obviously.
Yeah.
So there in Tennessee, he had set number 1 guy. Here, as we talked about, it's kind of running back by committee. It seems like Jalen Warren is going to be the main guy. There's Caleb Johnson and others there. But seeing DK Metcalf catch passes over the middle, he ran a post today, and I saw him catch the ball, turn full speed. I don't know how you don't use a guy like that as much as you can. I wouldn't want to tackle him, especially how big he is, how fast he can get in the open field there. I wouldn't want to step in front of him. So passing was more fun. Downfield passing, we saw that with Russell Wilson, George Pickens last year. And speaking of George Pickens, DK said that they did not talk after he was traded here. He would have liked to work with him. Obviously saw how that turned out, but I thought it was interesting. That's what I wanted to ask him since he got traded, was whether they were able to interact, and it didn't sound like that.
The last thing I want to bring up, and it's something we talked about yesterday in terms of Aaron Rodgers and being a mentor for Will Howard, but I talked to Tom Arth about it, and he said, it's such a this is a guy, Aaron Rodgers, who gets talked about his character a lot, and he said, and you can look at the way that Jordan Love talks about him look at him coming in his first day. It's a big deal, and he's spending time in his press conference talking about, oh, yeah, I want to be a mentor for Will Howard. In fact, Arth said Aaron Rodgers came to him and said, is it okay if when I see something, I interject, I step up, and because he was worried about stepping on Arth's toes as the quarterbaacks coach. And Tom's like, you're Aaron Rodgers. Like,
they've known each other too.
Please. And yeah, of course, those guys have a long relationship. But so I thought that was funny. That Aaron actually asked for permission basically to mentor Will Howard, and that was something that even before he walked in the door was something that he was thinking about. I think that's pretty noteworthy for Aaron and the discussion around him. Anything else top of your mind from mini camp practice number 2 today?
For me, over the past 2 days, I have to mention just watching Aaron Rodgers throw in person. He still has zip on his passes. We've seen countless highlights of him rolling out and throwing on the run. I got a video of that today. He's not as fast rolling out as he once was, but he can still zip the ball to where it needs to be pretty quickly. There were a few shots I had to delete because as I was following the ball, it got too
not fast enough.
Too quick. So I was like, this is pointless. Can't see where the ball went, so I just deleted it on my phone. But it's really cool for someone who watched football. I had his football card, I think, when I was like 8 years old. So it's cool seeing him come and throw it and get him closer.
Yeah, the velocity is definitely still there. We'll see about the rest of the stuff. That's it for minicamp practice number 2. One more of these to go tomorrow. Thanks so much for listening, for watching. For Brendan Howe, I'm Alan Saunders, wrapping things up here on the South Side for Pittsburgh Sports Now. Till next time, enjoy.